Hello and welcome to this brand new episode of The Cover, a show where we share with you and all our viewers a sneak peek of the latest Business Today magazine. With all our viewers, I'm Sakshi Batra, and with me on this show I have Alokesh Bhattacharyya, Managing Editor of the Business Today magazine. Also joining in on this show, I have with me Binu Paul, Senior Assistant Editor, who's done the cover story this time. And also I have Nidhi Singhal on the panel, Senior Associate Editor of the Business Today magazine. Welcome to all of you and thank you so much for taking the time out. And now to showcase the first look of the newest issue of the Business Today magazine, which is already out on the stands, and you can definitely go and grab that out. Now you can see a nose-diving rocket displaying on the cover page. We'll come to the cover story as well. But Alokesh, let me welcome you first. Great to have you back on the show. Help us first, understand, and all our viewers also understand what to really watch out for in this issue. What can really readers expect?
There's just so much, Sakshi, in this issue that I don't know what to say because there's the entire issue is, like all issues of business today, it's like a collector's item. It's got lots and
Okay.
lots of good stories. There is the story, like you said, of the startups, right? And the startups are facing a funding challenge, and there are other challenges also, which are basically exacerbated by the external circumstances. As well as we also have a very strong package on sustainability,
Yeah.
sustainable business practices, and there are several stories on that, looking at different aspects of corporate sustainability and how we are going to meet our net zero targets. Apart from that, lots more.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, very, very interesting article that I spotted briefly looking at the magazine was on how jobs are back.
So the jobs divide, if you look at it, essentially is, white collar jobs, those who are well educated, have a good technology or technical, education. And there are sectors not just in IT but other sectors also where technology jobs are hugely in
Yeah.
demand, right? And the other side of the jobs is, the government jobs and all, where there is a struggle going on. So, no matter where you go, technology jobs are there for the taking if you have the right education and the right skill sets. There's no dearth of jobs. In fact, there are more and more. There's far more jobs available than people available at this point.
Right. So, no dearth of jobs. And this is definitely good news for all the students and professionals looking for jobs right now. Thanks, Alokesh, for all that update. Let me come to Binu next. Binu, help us understand on the cover story where you're talking about this startup plunge. Why
Yes.
suddenly are we really getting concerned about the funding crunch in the startup world? Why is this big money seeming to vanish? There's also a huge amount of pessimism right now being discussed on the huge amount of layoffs in the startup world. Help us understand and bring us up to speed to all of that.
There is a combination of global macro events, including the inflation, the interest rates going up, the war in Ukraine. So all these factors are forcing large equity investors to be extremely cautious of their fund deployment. Most large global funds are crossover funds. Some are public listed as well. So they experience the volatility of the public market,
Correct.
especially on the tech stocks in India and across the globe. So they're uncertain where the bottom is. They don't know how deep can this drop be. So historically, there has always been a larger gap between the private market's reaction to a public market slowdown, but that gap is getting shorter now. The reaction time is getting faster, and
Yeah.
due to this combination of global macro events coming together. So
Right.
all this makes it really hard for late stage startups to raise funds, and investors across the board, from early stage investors to mid stage to late stage investors, are advising
Yeah.
their startups to kind of conserve cash and hire diligently, and extend the runway as far as possible. So
Is
yes.
this the beginning of the end of the Indian startup story? Or will the Indian startups really emerge as a resilient pack? Is there a silver lining for them amid the dark clouds that we are seeing?
Yeah, actually, there are a lot of positives that Indian startup ecosystem is looking at. So, to begin with, for late stages, while most aggressive investors like the SoftBank and the Tigers are slowing down, but a host of new large global investors, including a couple of hedge funds, some sovereign wealth funds, and pension funds, are looking at the Indian market, and
Yeah.
they're very keen on the digital economy that that's growing exceptionally, and they want to be part of this growth story. And they think this is the right time to get in because valuations are considerably moderate now. Secondly, the geopolitical and regulatory risk in China is still rising, and for dollar-denominated funds, it's still an risky market to invest in. And thirdly, there's enough dry powder in India. The Indian-focused funds, including Axel, Elevation, Air 91 Partners, Bessemer, they've all raised large funds in the last 18 months. So there is enough dry powder sitting with these VCs to kind of deploy for the next 1 year or two. And
Okay.
lastly, there are many alternative financial solutions such as venture debt, revenue-based financing, lease financing, and all that. There are many different financial vehicles that are coming up, and startups are really looking at all these options to kind of tide over this tough phase.
Nidhi, let me come to you next now. Help us understand how are really businesses getting prepared with the kind of sustainability packages going forward.
Thank you, Sakshi. Sakshi, so the companies have realized that when we say ESG, which is environment, social, and corporate responsibility, it has become a basic standard that they need to adopt. They need to furnish their reports to SEBI because that is how they can attract some good investments going forward. You can say in a way a lot of investors have started looking at the ESG reports of the company. How much are they contributing to the environment, to the social factor, and if whether and how the governance practices are, which will in the end return for the bring in a good investment for the will bring in a good return for the investment. So again, the problem is that the term ESG was coined way back in 2004, 2005, but India is still catching up. A
Right.
recent CRISIL report just says that out of 500 plus companies, only one-fifth had submitted their report this year.
Okay.
So there's still a lot of catching up that needs to be done.
What are the challenges right now that India is facing? How is it progressing on this front? And the kind of finances that India will require to achieve this target?
So interesting it is because India is not one of the top polluters in the world. If you were to look at the numbers, we are around our yearly carbon emissions are around 3,300 plus million tons, whereas China is around 11,700 and US is around 5,700 million tons carbon emissions per year. But yet India has committed to its net zero target for 2017. And for that, industry estimates that we will be requiring close to $10 trillion of funding in the next 48 years. So, which is huge. Long-term detailed investment plans are not there. Only 5 to 10 year plans are there because everybody plans for short term. In which power is something which is the biggest polluter. We use coal a lot, right? It's around 40% of the emissions. Then this is followed by industries, which is around 25, the transportation and then the agriculture. So a lot of big players, all the big players, frankly, have realized that they need to switch to renewable power. They need to lower their scope 1 and scope 2 emissions, which are directly related to their business. And even now they're looking at scope 3, which revolves around their overall value chain.
Thank you very much, all the panelists, for being with us on this very, very special show, helping us understand all those important and interesting stories that are out already in this copy for all our readers to really enjoy and to get insights about how the world around us is really changing. Thanks a lot. It's been fascinating understanding all these insights from you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sakshi.
If you like the video, do like, comment, share and subscribe.